What up, Ring Crew Army? You are listening to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows. And on this episode of Square Circle Podcast, it is the main event of Night 3, Road to Castle Attack series. This match featured Bullet Club versus Chaos. We had Tonga teaming up with Tonga Loa and Evil, taking on Okada, Goto, and Yoshi. This is where you get that amazing photo that was taken at New Japan Pro Wrestling, and I decided to make it into an EP album cover. So I wonder if one day Bullet Club would drop their own EP album. That'd be pretty fun. The users on Reddit were very helpful with the song titles, and I put it together. It is currently not on social media yet. Tonga does have it, so he could look at it. But I would want to put it for this specific episode just because of how badass the picture was, and I couldn't pass up the opportunity. I could be creative with graphics. My talent in graphic making is not vast and it's not extensive. I do what I can. I'm more talented in the writing department and making these podcast episodes for each and every listener that tunes in, whether on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and even now on YouTube. So if you guys are new to the Square Circle Podcast, welcome. If you guys have been here since day one, current, welcome as well. So the Square Circle Podcast is dedicated to reviewing wrestling shows. This is a New Japan Pro Wrestling podcast episode that is giving you commentary, English commentary for the Japanese video, because the English commentary will come at a later date and I'm not sure when that will be. So I do not want to keep New Japan Pro Wrestling fans waiting. So I am learning how to do commentary, and if you guys want to leave me a comment on how well I did, you guys could definitely do that over at Twitter at Maria_Shadows, or leave me a voice message on anchor.fm/Square Circle Podcast. I am a fan of Bullet Club. I support Bullet Club, and I am loyal to Bullet Club. Bullet Club's mentality is the only one that feels right, sounds right, and definitely connects with me more on a intellectual base than anything else. But maybe that should be talked about in a whole new podcast rather than me giving you guys the English commentary for this wonderful main event on the Road to Castle Attack. So let's jump into this 6-man tag. Okada leads the charge against Bullet Club, going after Evil. Goto attacks Loa, and Yoshihashi goes after Tonga. After a while, the referee gets control under this match, and we have Goto with a side headlock to Loa. Loa gives some elbow strikes to Goto to have him release a side headlock, and now there is a show of strength between both men. Then a hip toss from Goto to Loa. Goto and Yoshihashi team up against Loa to do a double shoulder tackle, and then the assisted hip toss that Goto does with Yoshihashi, driving Yoshihashi's body onto Loa. Yoshi now has his own headlock on Loa. Loa backs Yoshi up into the ropes on the Bullet Club side, and that allows Tama to tag in. Tama throws a punch to Yoshi. Loa comes in with a palm strike, and Tama finishes off with a gun stun. And sometime after that combination, Yoshihashi manages to get a Hurricanrana in on Tama. Evil gets tagged in, and Okada gets tagged in, and now we have Evil versus Okada. Loa comes in and attacks Okada while Evil attacks Goto and Yoshi. Okada then manages to fight off all 3 members of Bullet Club and does double boots to Evil, only to be caught in the ropes, and Evil jumps up to the second rope and stomps Okada down. Evil then shoves Okada into the ring post, and Tama holds Okada so that way Evil can kick Okada. Yoshi tries to come in and save, but Evil rakes his eyes. Evil with the neck breaker on Okada. Okada kicks out of the pin attempt and gives some knees to Evil, tosses him to the outside, but Evil gets the upper hand and throws Okada back first into the guardrail. And while on the outside, there are chops and forearms from both Evil and Tama onto Okada. They get Okada back into the ring, and now Tama is tagged in. Tama does a body slam to Okada and then tags in Loa Loa does his patented over-the-top senton move onto Okada. Loa goes for the pin attempt. Okada kicks out at 2, and then Loa does a headbutt which staggers Okada back into the corner, and Loa then proceeds to drive his shoulder into Okada's gut. Evil then tags himself in, and we get this abdominal stretch on Okada from Evil. Evil gets some help from Jado and Dick Togo on the outside to apply more pressure onto Okada. Then in the match, we get this Evil tactic combo, according to Tonga. He confirmed it not only on Twitter, but also on his podcast, Thomas Island, which you guys can definitely go over to twitch.tv/Thomas Island to hear him rant like a New Yorker, get mad at almost everything about professional wrestling. And it is some really great content. The Evil tactic combo is quite simple. Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa throw Okada into the ropes. Force of that sends Okada to the middle of the ring, and Evil is there to meet him with a kick in the gut. And then Tama and Loa pull Okada down by the hair onto the mat, and Evil does a senton onto Okada. This is a very effective trio combination, and it looked pretty nice. After that, Okada manages to have some fight left in him and punches Evil, but Evil counters with a knee to the gut. Evil throws Okada into the corner. Okada sidesteps and captures Evil in a belly to back neck breaker. Okada finally gets the tag to Goto, and Goto comes in with a fiery start, does a misdirection clothesline to Tama, a leaping heel kick, and bulldog combination to Tama as well. Loa comes in and holds Goto in the ropes while Tama lands in some punches on Goto. After Goto is let go, he tries for the Yoshi on Tama, but Tama reverses it into the Tonga twist. Tama tags out to Loa, who comes in and tries to get the pin attempt over on Goto, who's still on the floor feeling the effects of the Tonga twist, but Goto kicks out at 2. Goto fights back with a spinning clothesline on Loa, and that is when he tags in Yoshi into the match. There is an exchange of forearms between Yoshi and Loa. And a side note, somehow Loa's red sneaker came off during this match when he was fighting against Goto before Goto got the tag in on Yoshi. And that's going to be one of life's greatest mysteries in professional wrestling, on how his damn sneaker came off during the match. No one pulled it off. No one stepped on it. And I know that it probably could have came loose. But regardless, looking back on the footage on NJPW World.com, which you guys should definitely sign up and get a subscription, I don't know how his sneaker got off his foot. And that was a really weird, funny moment, even after the post-match, which I'll get to, but just a little side note. Yoshi manages to apply the butterfly lock onto Loa. Okada saw Evil jump up on the ring apron and decided to enter the ring and knock him off to take care of him on the outside, so that way Evil doesn't interfere. However, Goto comes into the match, and now we have Yoshi and Goto working together. Loa manages to do a double clothesline to both Goto and Yoshi, and then Tama and Loa do the guerrilla warfare on Yoshi. There is a pin attempt, but Okada comes in to save the match. Evil comes in and takes care of Okada. Now Goto does 2 Yoshi-Giroshis, 1 to Tama and 1 to Loa. Yoshi comes in with double knees onto Loa, and there is a pin attempt on Loa, but Loa kicks out at 2. Dick Togo comes in with the distraction. Jado tries to use the kendo stick, but Yoshihashi scouts this out and kicks Jado. Jado rolls out to the floor. Loa takes advantage of the distraction and does a reverse power driver to Yoshihashi. Loa then pins him, gets the 1, 2, 3, and Bullet Club is victorious in this 6-man tag. And yes, Loa defeated Yoshihashi with 1 sneaker on. After Bullet Club picking up the victory in this match, Loa decides to give his post-match comments in the ring. So does Tama Tonga. So here's the scene that's going to be happening at Castle Attack come February 27th. On February 27th, both Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa are going to be in singles matches against Yoshi and Goto. On the 27th, it will be Yoshi taking on Loa and Goto taking on Tama Tonga. This is a little bit different because these men are tag team specialists. While, yes, they can be very great as singles competitors, they are so used to having someone in the corner. So when you tag out to your tag partner, you get to rest a little bit on the ring apron before getting back in there. When you are a singles competitor, you're going and going and going. There is no stop unless you guys headbutt each other and, there's a little bit of rest period there. So this might end up being a little bit challenging for both men, but everyone involved are going to have fantastic matches, and the titles are not on the line when these single matches happen come February 27th at Castle Attack. So Loa is informing the crowd and everyone else that he's going to hurt Yoshihashi. So don't bother buying tickets for the 28th. On the 28th of Castle Attack, it's going to be a straight up tag team match because this whole thing has been climbing towards Yoshihashi and Goto challenging the Gorillas of Destiny, Tama Tonga, Tonga Loa for their IWGP Heavyweight Championships. And the only reason why this happened is because Yoshi got the surprise pin on Loa at New Japan Pro Wrestling's The New Beginning when Bullet Club was not victorious in picking up the 6-man never open weight tag team championships, which I still think that Bullet Club, that victory got stolen from them and they should have captured the belts and they should have had more gold around their waist. But we'll see what happens in the upcoming weeks after Castle Attack if they decide as a unit and as a power team to continue to go after the 6-man championships. Because now you really got to think about it. On the 27th, Tama, Loa, and Jay White are all in singles matches against the 6-man champions. So if all 3 men of the Bullet Club are successful, why wouldn't they want to challenge again for the 6-man never openweight tag team championships when the momentum is on their side? And by fighting these guys individually, not only do they gain more knowledge on how to defeat their opponents, even working together, they'll be a lot more dangerous. And that's what Bullet Club is about. Bullet Club is about being dangerous, but also being smart in their approach on how they dissect their opponents, how they manipulate the referee, and how they manipulate the rules to have it play in the favor of Bullet Club. So that's where we're at in terms of this whole entire story that has been developing since February 1st, since Jay White coming back into New Japan Pro Wrestling and Bullet Club. So Loa just reminds people that he's going to be hurting Yoshihashi on the 27th. So that way on the 28th, when they have their tag team match, that he won't be able to show up. Now, Tama gave his post-match comments, and he considers Goto a stepping stone. And when Tama defeats him on February 27th at Castle Attack, because he has a singles match with him, that is going to be his way of leveling up in 2021. So Tama is only going to get stronger, and Tama is only going to keep climbing that ladder, and no one is going to stop him, and no one is going to defeat him, not even Goto himself. And these are the type of stories that I live for, that I love watching unfold and trying to dissect deeper meanings with the characters and the psychology and everything. So this stuff gives me a better challenge than anything else in professional wrestling. And I hope as I break down matches, story, psychology, everything on what makes professional wrestling amazing without giving away too much information from the inside, from whatever I know, whatever is relevant to the situation or whatever I'm explaining, that it brings a little bit of value into everyone's lives, everyone that listens to this podcast. I hope it brings you value and you appreciate wrestling a little bit more like I do, and you appreciate New Japan Pro Wrestling a little bit more as well. I know New Japan Pro Wrestling is not for everyone, and even on Twitter, people still complain about New Japan Pro Wrestling, about this or that, or just talking out their ass about it. But trust me, if you guys just sign up at NJPWworld.com and just get the subscription, it's way better than the WWE Network. So I highly suggest it. And if you watch the matches, you could definitely play back the English commentary I give you guys. And you want to leave me feedback on that too, that's great. But you guys can definitely have the video up, have my commentary on, and you can see what I'm talking about when I do this for these matches. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been my assessment of night 3 of the Road to the Castle Attack series. This was the main event, and I had a blast talking about it and diving a little bit deeper into the stories to bring it more to life for you guys. The ways that you can support me, Marie Shadows, and the Square Circle podcast is very, very, very simple. Head over on Twitter, follow me there at Marie_Shadows. You guys can definitely leave me comments on the Twitter side. If you want to listen to the audio podcast of this, head over to anchor.fm/Square Circle Podcast. If you listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, thank you for listening to it over there. Just type in Square Circle Podcast. Over on the YouTube side, same thing, Square Circle Podcast. I have yet to hit 100 subscribers, so I can't really change the URL. But if you want to subscribe, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Turn on that notification bell and leave me some comments down below on how well I did. If you want to take it a step further, and I know I keep saying this in all the other podcast episodes, and I will eventually have some more articles up on the newsletter, because currently I have a Jay White article, a Kenny Omega article, and a Young Bucks article. Head over to theringcrew.substack.com. Make sure you sign up. There'll be a lot more articles there as well. Doing podcasts take a lot of time and a lot of research and effort. So I've been really focused on trying to bring something new to my podcast, which is talking about New Japan Pro Wrestling, which takes a little bit longer. So that way I can get all the info to you guys, especially backstage comments mixed in with in-ring commentary. So I try to do it as one whole big thing rather than giving you the match and then giving you a podcast about the backstage comments. I'd rather do it all in one sitting for you guys to listen to. So those are the ways that you can definitely support me. Don't forget to support Chase Owens and also Tonga on their projects as well. Again, just free press out there for those guys. And I hope you guys really enjoyed this episode. If you do, you are listening to the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys in the next one.